things that you've been doing on Twitch?
Well, I kind of alluded a little bit to it. So at the beginning of the pandemic, as everybody else that at least here that took it seriously, we were at home, and we were very careful. We have
Right.
immunocompromised people in our family, so we were just very cautious to not interact, with the outside
Right.
world
Yeah.
generally. And so I was kind of going a little bit stir crazy, and finally, I guess being at home and working from home, there was this. I needed a creative outlet,
hmm
so I used to do some stand up. I used to do some improv, and I was like, well, I need something to do, and none of those are available to me anymore. I've been playing D&D forever. I used to run like 4 to 5 games a week, and I was like, maybe I could do something on Twitch. Maybe, I can. It didn't start immediately. I was watching some Twitch, and there's a streamer that I really like, still do. He quit streaming since.
Okay.
And he encouraged me. He's like, hey, dude, why not give it a shot? I was like, all right, why not? Let's try it. Let's see what happens. The worst that can happen is nobody shows up.
Right.
And I was like, maybe I could talk about D&D. Maybe I can. And my initial plan from the get-go was like, people are stuck at home, and
Yeah.
it sucks, and they probably need some kind of outlet to just like have a communal space. Have you ever heard of the term of the third place? Is that a thing that you've heard before?
No, I don't think I have.
So the third place is this idea that at home is your first place, and this is your home. Your work is typically your second place, but there's traditionally been the third place, which is a place of like community, whether it's your local bar, your tavern, a park, some place you can go, a community center. And the third places, by and large, have either disappeared entirely or were shut down during COVID.
hmm
So I was like, well, maybe I could be that third place for people to come and play D&D and discover the hobby or just chit chat. So that was the stated mission statement, if you will, of the channel. And so that's what I worked towards. Of course, at first, like nobody was showing up, like literally nobody. I would
Of
have
course.
oodles of content ready and like no one would show up. And that was, I want to say it was not disheartening, but it was. But I was like, you know
hmm
what? It's fine. I'll just keep doing my own thing.
Right.
And then finally, I was like, well, I was doing it like twice a week. And I was like, you know what? I should stream every day, my prep for my games anyway.
hmm
And the only time I could do it is in the morning because that's when, at 8 o'clock I start to work. So I might as well get up early anyway.
Right.
And so that's when I picked up. And then slowly it grew to like 15, 20 viewers. And then eventually, this was a complete fluke. I mean, it was slowly growing, which I was very thankful for. And then one day, I stumbled on Rob's stream. I had no idea who he was, and
hmm
he was playing with Tailspire, and I was like, oh, this guy's using Tailspire. I love Tailspire. And he was asking chat, what's going on? I can't get it. I was like, I was in his chat for 1 second, going, oh, you just press this button, and it'll do the thing that you want to. He's like, oh, that's cool, thank you.
Okay.
And then he asked me another question. I was like, yeah, I use Tailspire. I stream occasionally. Like, I didn't volunteer the information
hmm
that I streamed. And he was like, cool. And then the next time I streamed, he showed up. He's like, this is really cool. And he sat in chit chat. He's like, yeah, this is awesome. And then he reached out,
hmm
which he had no reason to do or no business doing. And I was like, okay, thank you. And then from there, it kind of developed into I invited him over for one shot, and then so on and so forth. And that's it. Anyway, that's the whole story.
That's the whole story. So you alluded to it just now, but you kind of said that you get up early in the morning. You get up as early as I do. So usually when I'm up in the morning, the first thing that I see on my phone when I eventually pick it up is your stream.
Cool.
Is
Thank you.
that it is? It is. Is that by choice or by need, or is just something you enjoy doing? How did that come about?
So when your kids are teenagers, do you remember being a teenager and your parents, if they're, my parents, we didn't have a yard, but you get up and they're making noise because they don't give a crap. They're like, life is busy and it's the weekend and you're like 14, you want to sleep until 10 or 1 because, you're a teenager.
Yes.
And the reason your parents do this, I found out now. I know. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. I know. It's because when your kids are really little, they wake up at the crack ass of dawn
Oh
and
my
they
god.
train you to wake up at 5 in the morning because that's
hmm
what they do because they're little terrors. And so my kids trained me to get up this early over the past 10 years. So I'm in the habit of getting up at like 5:15, 5:30 anyway. So it's like, okay, if I have work at 8, I sat with my wife because this is, a relationship and you got to make it work. And I was like, okay, can I stream and how often can I stream? She's like,
Right.
well, we have to get the kids to school. We have to get maybe before the work day. I was like, done, deal.
hmm
So it was just more of what fits in my life. I wasn't about to shoehorn streaming into my life. It was more around this is my life, and then how can I get this thing in that I kind of want to do. And so I get up at 4:45 every day now, and I stream for 3 hours, and then I go on with my day.
Thank you for the redeem for the hydrate, miss. my chat all knows that I forget to eat and I forget to drink. So, so do you do this early wake up call? Obviously, it's by choice, as as well as by need. But does your creativity come about more in the morning, or it's just happen?
No, no, you know what? I found that people talk about the muse and stuff, but oftentimes it's just consuming media is like a big part of this, right? Like whether you're
Mm-hmm.
reading or watching something, your brain will percolate and like sort of regurgitate it in different ways.
Right.
This is going to sound maybe a little bit trite, but I think it's generally true. There's not a whole lot of new stories to be told. It's more how you present the stories that you tell and the characters that are new and exciting. But the hero's journey was mapped out like 2,000 years ago. Like we
Right.
know about the hero's journey. This is
Right.
nothing new, right? So the first act, second act, third act has generally been sorted out. And so for me, creativity is often the result of like work, just grinding at it, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon, just driving to work, which I don't do anymore, but like, doing little voices in your head or in the shower, just
Yes.
having these imaginary arguments that you win all the time. Just reading things, talking to people, just letting your mind rest and get away
Yes.
from a screen or something. And in those moments, by necessity or by just, brain chemistry, I guess sometimes things just happen. You go, oh, that's a cool idea. I'll write that down. And then you
Right.
hope for the best. Yeah, so it's not like any time of day, but I find in the morning I have to wake my brain up a little bit, and then
Yeah.
it just kind of naturally happens, I guess.
I mean,
What about you?
so it doesn't happen in the morning. Morning is for, okay, I have to get up, get myself together, get myself downtown Brooklyn so I can go
Yeah.
to work. There is no creativity that happens there. However, throughout the day, what ends up happening is that little things start to pop in my head. So in my office, you'll see post-it notes everywhere, not necessarily related to the fire department, but
Right.
related to stuff. And then I'll just put those post-it notes in my bag, and then, you know, so there's a ton of them in my bag. But so it happens throughout the day for me. So getting up early for me is absolute necessary, just because I have to. If I had
Right.
my choice, it would not be the case. Um, this is obviously not a full time gig. I know there are some full time dungeon game masters, some full time
Hmm.
streamers out there. Um, how do you balance day job, marriage, children, streaming, and keep all that on a schedule that you have
Yeah.
online?
Well, I mean, so I'm not a spring chicken, I guess. I have my priorities are always my family first, right?
Right.
Like I think my marriage and my kids. Um, Not necessarily in that order, but
Mm-hmm.
certainly my family.
Mm-hmm.
And then second to that would be my job, and then work-life balance, and then somewhere near the bottom is streaming. I feel like I owe a responsibility
Mm-hmm.
at this point. Like I could quit streaming tomorrow. Like I would miss it for like a month, and then I'd move on with my life.
Right.
But at this point, like somehow this community that sort of sprung up of these amazing people, I feel like I owe them something, like they've come to like sort of enjoy the morning together. I get to know some of the faces. And so that's how I schedule it. Like I get up. This is, my wife has been a superhero to be like in the morning. I stream from 5 to 8, right? So
Mm-hmm.
she feeds the kids, they get dressed, they're old enough, they get ready for school, off they go, even though it's summer vacation now, it's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
that's generally how it goes. And it shoehorns. But if ever there's a conflict of interest, of like family or work, then streaming takes a back seat,
Right.
and
Right.
then I just readjust around it, and that's about it. But being consistent, I enjoy streaming. I actually like doing it. It's not, I don't get paid by it. Like extra like $300 a month is not make or break. It's not like I'm
Right.
not. It's nice to get a payout every month from Twitch. I use it towards the stream, or literally like I don't really make any money off of
Right.
Twitch. But it's more about I enjoy it. The day that I stop enjoying it, or the day it becomes a
Yeah.
chore, is the day that I'm like, hey guys, this is starting to become something I don't want to do or I dread doing, and then
Right.
I'll have that conversation then. But for now, 2 years in, still like it.
So, do you ever think the day will come where Twitch would be your full time retirement job or something along those lines?
It's a funny question. There was a last year there was a viewer, Dragons at Rest, I think that was their name, and he asked me the same question. He's like, hey, if you could, would you make Twitch your full-time job? And the answer I gave was honest, and it maintains the same today. No, I would not. I think unless I'm like, Ludwig or, one of those
Yeah.
guys who has like, insane and I can retire after like 6 months of doing it. I have a very well paying, or very well, I have a good paying job
Mm-hmm.
in Canada. I have a pension, I have benefits, I have a retirement plan.
Yep.
I have, all of these things that are very important. I have money that I put aside for my kids. Like Twitch is, or generally even YouTube, you are, even though I'm not doing it full time,
Mm-hmm.
that number chasing algorithm sort of soul
Shane,
crushing
yes.
machine, it churns. And I think about it
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh, I'd like to make partner one day, but why does it preoccupy like 80% of my brain space when I start thinking about it? And I'm like, no, it shouldn't. It's not
Right.
that important. So I think it would be, if ever the opportunity presented itself where like, Ludwig goes, hey, Rackham, I want you to be my DM for Dungeons and Dragons. And then, okay, cool. That's great. That'd be extra income. I still would make it my full-time job.
So okay. Okay.
I just find that stability, already like with the economy the way that it is, we're talking economy on a Twitch stream. People's disposable income comes and goes.
Yeah.
People fall in and out of your stream, and I don't want people to ever feel like they have, like that's just my take and it's just my opinion, but I don't
Mm.
feel like I want to put my financial well-being on people that want to support. It just feels like a lot of um it's not for me. Let's just say
Right.
it's just
Right.
not for me. I wouldn't. I don't feel right by it. And whenever somebody subscribes to my channel, I get really uncomfortable.
Really.
Yeah, it's a me thing. I save your money. Like the economy still sucks, and I'm sure you could probably use that $6 to buy a coffee or something that's probably better. Yeah, I don't know. So it just makes me squirm incessantly when people, and I appreciate their support. It's very kind and generous. Like somebody today tipped me $10 because I
Okay.
explained what a session zero was, and I just squirmed in my seat for like a solid 5 minutes. I was like, thank you. You didn't have to. I appreciate it because people tell me make sure you say thank you. So thank you. But it's also hard to not be like, just keep your $10, man. It's fine. I'm happy to do this for free for you. So
Well,
it's a hard balance. I don't know. It's an imposter syndrome. It's all of it. It's just tricky.
it's yeah. I got you. I got you. I understand. Completely understand. I mean, don't you? Do you think that maybe if the idea of streaming shifted to more of a television type of scenario that you'd be more comfortable with it? Like you're essentially producing a show. You
Yeah.
produce a show over and over again, and television stars and producers get paid, and that's one way to get paid is through advertisements. So do you think if Twitch shifted to that would be
I
more
think I'd be
comfortable
more
for you?
comfortable with it. The way that I look at it, and the reason I've made my like at some point last year or a year and a half ago, somebody gifted like 20 subs on the channel, and I
Oh wow.
almost quit streaming that day. I was like, I'm done. Because I felt so nauseous
Mm,
over it. And my wife's like, "What's the matter?" I'm like, this cost somebody like $60 or no, $100. She's like, "Yeah, they wanted to support the channel." I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't know, like it feels like a lot of money and it's this and that." She's like, "Look, if you met a busker on the street that was there every day and you enjoyed and you occasionally give them a $5 tip, would you
right.
feel okay about it?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I would." It's like it's the same thing.
Yes.
And I was like, I guess so. And that sort of like that logical thinking was like, okay, if I think about it that way, maybe it's fine. But it was just legitimately a very hard battle that I still struggle with. But you're right. Like if it was more of a TV show and I'm producing the show, then maybe if I thought about it that way, I'd be more comfortable with it.
Right. Right.
I don't know. Do you struggle with that concept at all? Is that a thing that you find
I
it?
do not. And the reason I do not is because I've never had the experience of having someone sub a bunch of, give me a bunch of subs or a bunch of bits. I've never had the experience, so
Hmm.
it hasn't come up. There's a few times where people have subscribed. It's kind of like, okay, cool, that's kind of cool. But
Yeah.
also, my intention with coming on Twitch was never to be partner. It was just because I wanted to do the thing that I wanted to do,
Yeah.
and thought I had a good idea, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that has always been the goal and continues to be the goal. So subbing and bits are kind of like secondary for me. So if it happens, great, thank you very much, I appreciate it. If it
Hmm.
doesn't happen, great, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I
You
hear
know.
you. Yeah. Yeah.
So, so you started on Twitch like you said before, but why not YouTube or some other platform first?
I mean, It's because it's kind of the first thing I found, right? Like when I was streaming with my son to my wife, like I was familiar somewhat with Twitch, like Justin TV, and
Hmm.
I'm an old hat. I used to watch. Um, are you familiar with like the fighting community? There used to be this tournament called Evo, and that's like a big fighting tournament that happens like
Hmm.
Street Fighter kind of fighting tournament, not
Okay.
UFC.
Okay.
That happens in Vegas, and it was streamed on like Justin TV back then, back in the day, and I was like, this is cool. And I found live streaming really early, and so I was familiar when Justin TV became like Twitch, and I was like, cool. So I was one of I don't know early in, and I was like, cool, I can stream, to my wife. It's the only place I know that it will let me do this kind of
Right.
thing. And so when I came back to many years later, I left Twitch after that. I was like, all right, whatever. I don't have time for this. Yeah, I
Right.
have kids, I have a family. But I was like, okay, I guess Twitch is the place to do it. And then that was it. There wasn't a whole ton of thought because I thought for live streaming, Twitch was the platform, and then if I wanted more formal sort of video essay content, I would go to YouTube. But I
Right.
didn't have. I know a lot more now, but I didn't have the editing expertise. I didn't have the ideas or the gear, quite frankly, to do
Right.
any of the things that I now know I could do and should do, but don't do because I don't have time.
So, um, you and everyone can see behind you have
Mhm.
a massive mini collection. Like it's absolutely like I'm jealous. So, like my mini collection is solely for like work. It's not like if people want to give me stuff, thank you. But it's
Yeah.
solely for work. How did that develop and evolve? Like when did it all start?
It started pretty late actually. I used to have whenever I'd need it, right? Like we'd play D&D and like, oh, I need orcs for next week. I guess I'll pick up
Mm,
some orcs, or I need a giant, or I have giants, or I need this, and then it slowly became like, all right, with this website where I order stuff has a sale on this. I don't need it now, but instead of $8, it's like $1.50, and if I order like $100 or more, it's free shipping.
okay.
I guess I'll just buy a bunch of minis, and like one thing leads to another. Like the new set's coming out, and then I joined like this online community about minis. It was like really, and I still love
Mm,
minis.
mm,
So it grew, and then it just kind of exploded. I have some dwarven forged terrain, and then you're like,
ooh,
okay, so if I want to do a setup of like they're gonna come and fight demons, what do I need for this? Or I need like this stuff and that stuff, and that, and
right,
it's just, and then it becomes like having it for the sake of having it because you want to complete part of the collection.
right.
It's the bug has died down pretty a lot these days because I have a lot of minis, and I have like probably 500 or 600 unpainted minis that I really should get through before I
Oh,
buy anymore.
the painting.
So yeah, yeah.
The,
So, but that's it. Like, and I just, like people can have their Barbies and the GI Joes. I can have my minis. I don't, I like them. That's
So
fun.
I've got Barbies and GI Joes. I have a huge collection of that. Um,
Nice.
so to me, certain companies that do minis are kind of predatory. Um, what do you think about how minis are sold specifically by Watsy or?
That's a great, fantastic, amazing question. I have stopped buying minis for that very reason. Like, I always struggled with. But so I would buy the cases where you get like enough bricks or booster packs that you get all the collection, right? You get
Mm,
everything. You're guaranteed to get everything. But it's the same principle as loot boxes. It's the same principle as Magic the Gathering packs.
yes.
It's the same principle where it is predatory. It is
Yes.
essentially legalized gambling.
Mm-hmm.
And with the price increases and I could afford it. Like it's not a matter of money. It's just I grew frustrated with that aspect of it. Like now that I have kids, I look at it. Not that I didn't have kids before, but I have. I look at them and I go, my son's on. He has a tablet that he uses for school, but he also, like plays FIFA on the PlayStation
Right.
5. And he's like, can I get packs? I'm like, no, absolutely, you cannot get packs. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? Yeah, but they have the thing like, this is how they get you. Like, they
Yep.
get you early and they sort of normalize it. And I find that, as much as I would love a WotC sponsorship one day, I find it horrifying. And so I have not bought any minis in a good while because as a form of maybe like minor protest, but the only thing I could do is vote with my wallet.
Right.
So I've been buying minis from other organizations, not Wizards of the or not WizKids. Either it's 3D prints if somebody can print it for me, or other companies like Kickstarters that I find are more ethical in their presentation than Wizards of the Coast. So it's been it's been a long journey. I'm still a little bit sad about the whole thing, but
Mm.
I have stood by my guns, so to speak, and it's easier when like Tiamat is $500. You know, like
Right.
what are you doing? What are you
Yeah.
doing? Like you're taking us for a ride, and I'm not here
Yeah,
for it. Yeah,
I totally like. As much as I would love a Tiamat to be on my shelves one day, I'm not paying $500 for
yeah,
essentially a toy. Like that's insane. That's absolutely insane to me. So,
yeah.
what is? So there's a question in chat that actually I'm going to ask anyway. What's your favorite mini?
I've shown them before. There's two of them. When my kids during the pandemic, I was like, "Hey, you guys want to paint some?" And he's like, "Hell yeah!" I was like, "Heck yeah!" So my son painted this guy.
Oh
I'm not sure if you
wow,
can see it.
he's really good actually. Wow.
Yeah. So this is a Vladimir with his flaming sword and his hair and his red eyes. And then my daughter, who's at the time was 5, painted this one
Oh, she
with her
painted that when
blue
she was
hair.
5.
Yeah, and she
Wow,
kind of got it right. You know, the face
that's
has
so
the lips where
cute.
they need to be and stuff. And those are my favorite because they painted them. My wife painted a mini, which I don't know where it is, but it's great. It's a tree ant. She did a great job. In terms of like pre-painted minis, it varies. Um, I love dragons, obviously.
Right.
And the one that I really liked for a while was like this. It's behind me. I can get it. I'll show it to you. Hang on.
So while he
Hang
gets that chat, just so you know, if you want to ask any questions toward the end of this whole thing, please redeem channel points. It's about 50. I think it's 50 channel points or something.
Oh, this one's pretty new, and I
Oh
like it. I got this
wow,
Udok, which is the Critical Role mini. I got it for like
that
$40.
is
I was very
so
happy.
cool.
Let me put that back. That's not the one.
I was just about to say, there's a green dragon
But this
right
green
there.
dragon is just I love it so much. It's big, it's menacing,
Gorgeous.
it looks
Yeah.
cool. I don't know why. It just has the right vibe for me. So I really like, and I think I have not every dragon. I don't have every dragon, but I have a decent sampling of dragons.
I was literally about to say there's a green dragon right there that looks so cool, and you picked it up as
Oh,
soon as
there
I
you
thought
go.
of. So, do you have a least favorite mini, or do you just love?
Yeah. So there's this abyssal chicken mini. I don't even know where the
Oh,
heck it is. I
what?
hate abyssal chicken. It's like basically a chicken that looks that's featherless and looks like a dog's breakfast, and it is the worst paint job in the history of minis that has ever minied. And I have one somewhere, and I keep it just to remind myself like this is what this company thinks of you, that they can sell you this, and you're okay with it. So there's a couple of minis that have been just I don't know how they passed quality control because you go, what are you doing? Like, are you joking? I spent money on this.
Like, thanks a lot.
But yeah. But the abyssal chicken by and large is like the worst mini. And then there are some minis that have like questionable presentation. Like I know what they're going for, but the art is one thing, and the way that it's presented like makes it racially questionable. Like, what are you doing? What is this
Right,
supposed to be?
right.
But those are a problem for different reasons.
So, do you think you would ever start 3D printing your own stuff?
I don't think my wife is watching right now, so we'll whisper the answer. I would like a 3D printer. There are a lot of things I would like to 3D print just beyond minis. I want to teach my kids like prototyping things for themselves and just to kind of get into that whole mindset of like making stuff of your own and trying it out. But yeah, I would love a 3D printer and printing my own things. I do have, to be fair, some like I said, 400 or 500 minis that are unpainted that I should really deal with before I add more. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So yeah, but I would very much like, because I think if I had a 3D printer, legitimately, what I would do on a weekly basis is like ship minis to you. Is like, you want a mini? Let me print it for you. And it'll
Oh
come in your.
wow.
That's what I would end up doing.
Yeah, I think that would be. I think it would be time consuming for me in that I don't need one more thing to add to my list, but I would love one. It's just it seems like a lot of work and a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
Um, how do you care for like you have hundreds and hundreds, probably it looks like maybe sometimes in the thousands, depending
I
on what.
have I have over 1,000 minis
Oh,
easily. Yeah.
so how do you care for all those minis? Like, do
I
you?
don't. I have an IKEA shelf. They're all organized by like size generally.
Hmm.
They have drawers that pull in and out. Can you see? I'll show you.
Oh wow. Okay. Yep.
This pulls in and out. Um, so they're organized generally by like categories: undead, and then orcs, and this and that. And then some of them have dust, some of them don't. And when I pull a mini to play the game, then I clean it up at that moment. But I don't particularly like go out of my way. But that's where they are. They're out of the way generally. My desk, I won't show it to you because it's a mess. But I probably have 100 minis scattered across ranging from like a little Pathfinder tree
Oh
ant that's right
wow.
here to like a Dracolich, Demogorgon, which is like sort of vibing over here. And then there's a flail snail and a retriever and a draconian and a
I feel like
two.
your desk and like your whole that whole room that behind you is covered in minis. Is that true?
Yeah, there's a lot. It's my office, but
Right.
it's also like my D&D sort of stash room, and this whole shelf is like unpainted minis and terrain and all kinds of crap. And there's a ship, there's a kraken, there's like God, I don't know. There's all my books. There's everything in here, you know.
So you had alluded to it before, kind of said a little bit before about a miniature being kind of really racially ambiguous. But if you scroll through Twitch, especially in the beginning of Twitch and the beginning of you seeing streams of D and D and DRPG, and to a much smaller extent now, gameplay wasn't very diverse, and it still kind
Mhm.
of somewhat isn't at this point right now. What advice would you give to people who want to diversify their tables or want to bring more diversity to their streams?
Yeah. All right. This is probably a break. Oh, this is a very tricky topic. First of all, I don't think there is. It's not. I think it's important too, but it's not mandatory to, right? Like if you
Right,
can't find someone, I don't ever. I think it's bad advice to tell people you need to have a diverse table because to have diversity for the sake of diversity,
right,
like tokenism is bad in and of itself, right? I
right.
think.
Absolutely agree.
Um, if you can find, like, if you don't know anybody that's interested, then you can put out feelers. You know, Twitter is still a thing for the time being. If you can, friend of a friend, maybe, like, do you have somebody you could recommend? Uh, Otherwise, it's going to be tricky. You know, even just if you're streaming, especially, you need to find a person that has the right energy, the right attitude that's going to fit at your table. There's like, do you do a casting call? You know, how is this going to work? It could be really difficult for a home game. It's probably easier, right?
Hmm.
Like if you want to have friend of a friend is probably a thing. If you only have people that look like you that you hang out with, I'm not going to question your value judgment, but maybe you need to expand a little bit of your social horizons, perhaps, maybe. Um, but online, it's very difficult. I was lucky. I'm thinking of I have Dread as
Hmm.
like the person who plays with me, and they are fantastic. I love having them at the table. But by and large, it's AJ, it's Rob, it's Ellen, it's Zach. I think they're fairly all heteronormative.
Hmm.
I've never really asked, and I don't know for that particular table. But for me, I guess I'm diverse. Does that count?
Yes,
But
it does.
but having diversity at your table just opens up the gameplay to me more because it brings richer cultures and experiences that you don't necessarily have. Just like you do at the workplace, it's somebody who has different ideas, different perspective, and it broadens your horizon. I was lucky enough to play with this guy from, I think he was Uganda,
Oh wow.
and he would pull from these stories and myths that I knew nothing about. And they were like story time stories that he used to get from his parents.
Hmm.
I think it's Uganda. There was like the story of this spider, I forget its name, that was creator of the world, this spider that would throw its webs. And he would pull from these stories. I was like, where do you come up with this stuff? He's like, these are just traditional
Right.
bedtime stories for us. I'm like, this is incredible. And I was like, I thought he was this genius. I was like, no, these are just stories I grew up with. But it really lent like this other view to the game, or the perspective or philosophy to it, and it just broadened my horizon, and that table was just fantastic to have. So anyway, there's a lot of benefits to it, but reaching out and finding people can be difficult.
Right.
And just putting out a call to the ether can be rewarding, and it can work out. But I think at this point there's so many people who want to play the game that I feel like it's probably more possible than not. Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, who knows? But
Right.
today, I'm sure if I go on Twitter and say I have a spot, I need somebody, I need a person that maybe a minority that's not represented, a trans person, or somebody who like wants to play who's not like just don't give me the 30-year-old white guy, please. I'm sure I would get like 1,000 DMs.
So how do you obviously, or what advice would you give to people who are caught in a catch-22 who want to diversify their table but don't want to do it for the sake of just doing it?
A reason why to do it?
Yes, like
Oh,
so
because it's
to avoid
fantastic.
tokenism. You know, like
Yeah.
some people are just like, I want to diversify my table. I don't know if that's true or not, but like to avoid that tokenism feeling.
I think you have to you have first of all, only you know your own heart, right? Like
Hmm.
it's hard for me to gauge anybody else's intent. There's I don't know where I heard this the first time, but I was young. We judge ourselves by our intention, but other people with their actions, right?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
you have to show an amount of grace in other people, and I ascribe the best intentions to other people when I can.
Right.
So it's hard to do that online. Hot takes and being pejorative or being mean or demeaning,
Yeah.
sells views, right?
Yeah.
Farming drama sells views. So you're opening yourself up to a can of worms if you're doing this online, but I'll ascribe to best intentions. And the reason, if you in your heart are genuinely curious, want to present something that's gonna speak to more people where you can grow as a creator, as a creative. If you're doing this just for yourself at home, fantastic. If you're genuinely curious and it comes from a place of good
Thank you.
intention and desire, then I would say that yes, you can absolutely do this, and just show genuine mental curiosity. Like for me, it's just I'd be like, I need, it's not some checklist that I go, I need an Asian person, I need a Middle Eastern person, I need a
Right.
black person, I need a white dude, I need like a Scandinavian. It's
Hmm.
not how it goes. It's more like who do I think would fit well, and if they happen to be a minority, great. If not, okay, I'll try to do maybe look a little bit harder. But if the best person for the position, there's no position, by the way,
Right.
nobody's getting paid. But if the person that I vibe with the most, I'm gonna go with this, right?
Right.
Like, but I have like Anansi. That's the name of the somebody in chat got it.
Yep. Maddie.
Uh, Maddie, yeah. So that's sort of that sparked such a curiosity in me that when if I find people who have a different cultural background, I had an Egyptian player once. My mom's from Egypt, but I know very little about Egyptian myths. You hear the stories of like Ra and Osiris and Isis and all of these guys, these gods, but I don't really know their stories. And so he was able to delve and plumb like those stories. I was like, that's amazing, because it got my creative juices going. So it was rewarding for me as well.
So awesome. So there's revolving around TTRPGs, specific D&D, but what are some common myths that you've had to deal with in your community or at your table?
Some myths, or sorry, some myths in the TTRPG scene.
Yes, in the community. So there's always one that's kind of pervasive that D&D is for uh, nerdy teenage white kids from like the I don't know from the suburbs. That
Oh,
stay in their mom's basement.
I mean, I think at this point in the maturity of Dungeons and Dragons, I think that somebody who thinks this way is willfully choosing to think that
Hmm.
way, right? Like it's hard for me to engage with a person like this just because there are the movies, there are countless video games, it's in the zeitgeist, like people like Stephen Colbert or Vin Diesel
Yeah.
or countless celebrities have come out like saying, I used to play D&D, I love D&D, Stranger Things has D&D like front and center. Like there are countless authors and writers and musicians and people in your day-to-day life, that why would you and so yeah, if somebody comes to me, oh, you play in your basement, like first of all, welcome to the 50s, dude. And secondly, no, like if you're curious about it, I think the best cure for that sort of behavior is sort of like shining a light on it, and then
Yeah.
be like, listen, I'll invite you. Come on, let's do a thing. I want to show you what it's about. We can do it literally a 20-minute session right now,
Hmm.
and you tell me what you think. But it's you can use big words like collaborative storytelling. They go, I don't know what that means. Cool. Have
Right.
you ever sit around a fireplace and told scary stories? Yeah, it's basically that, but more people participate. And they go, oh, okay. And then it can click. Sometimes they don't adhere to it. They're like, all right, whatever. I'm not interested. That's fine. Like I'm not interested in fishing. So you go fishing. I do my TTRPG, and we'll move on with our lives. But yeah, anybody who's still coming at it from like you're in your mom's basement, sort of like Big Bang Theory, let's make fun of nerds. I'm not, it's hard for me to sort of take seriously, I guess, at this
Right.
point.
So you said that you started playing D&D with Advanced Edition, Second Edition, I think you said.
Yeah.
Um, Between then and now, what is your favorite edition of D&D?
5.
Really?
5e. Yeah, undoubtedly 5e. Like, I got this question this morning, actually. It's funny. 5e is by far, to me, again, it's all subjective, but by far the best edition they've put out. Second edition was, when I could play an elf as a class. Anyway, second edition was rife. Like, Thaco was a nightmare.
Oh.
And people were like, it was brutal and it was punishing, and people still loved it. Fine.
Mhm.
3 was a nice new renaissance. 3.5 was very popular, but it got too crunchy and bloated and a
Yeah.
billion different books. Fourth edition was an interesting idea, and I just showed you the books. I played enough 4e.
Yep.
I think I had a decent handle on it, but it was some of the design decisions, like the skill checks, and
Yes.
there was some things that needed like a little bit longer to cook.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then 5e came back, and I think it's streamlined. Advantage and disadvantage is it's the core of the system. Like, people may
Right.
disagree, but to me, it is so elegant as a solution
Mhm.
to roll 2 dice, and it's so simple, and yet it works brilliantly.
Right.
The rules are as open-ended. They are finally aware of like safety tools and things, and they're just, yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done, but overall, I think 5e is just the right system for the right time.
So, do you think that they should use, like, now that you said that, you sparked some questions in my head. Do you think that they, Watsy, should pull some more elements from 4E into 5E, or from older?
100%.
Okay.
100%. Absolutely. 4e, Jesus, monster design. Like,
The monster design alone, I
it's
agree.
bewildering to me that they haven't done it. Bewildering that we have
Right.
to rely on third-party companies like MCDM for this. You had an entire system
Mhm.
of teaching players or DMs how to make amazing encounters. They told you in the 4th edition Dungeon Master Manual,
Yep.
hey,
Got it right
listen,
here.
you have all these monsters that you have a lurker, you have a defender, you have a tank, you have a this and that. Mix and match your monsters so you make a dynamic encounter. These tags disappeared in 5e, right? Like,
Yeah.
a goblin, an ogre, a spellcaster, they all function differently on the battlefield. But
Mhm.
put them together, you get a more interesting fight.
Yep.
I can open a monster manual for 4th edition. I have one troll, but I have 10 different versions of that same troll. I have the troll
Yes.
leader, I have the troll scout, I have the troll shaman, or whatever. Like, not every goblin should be the same, so give me some variety in the
Right.
same thing. So these are such opportunities, and they're brain dead opportunities. Just
It's
go
so
back to your
easy.
own books, Potsy. Release a book with like 10 different goblins and orcs and stuff, and it's not complicated. Just copy paste what you have, update the rule set for that, and I would be so happy. So yes, absolutely, they should go back. Some of the class design decisions in 4e, I think, were still more they're clearer. Like, I'll
Yes.
give you an example.
Mhm.
Rangers in 5e are all over the place.
Yes. I
One of
hate
the
it.
classes that
Hate paying it.
struggles the most because Wizards of the Coast has no clear, or had no clear, and continues to have no clear, in my mind, in the new UA, direction for what the Ranger is.
Right.
There's like these exploration masters, but there's no exploration pillar in 5e, so half their kit is useless. I don't care about favorite terrain. I don't really care about favorite foe.
Right.
I don't really care about all these elements that sound cool on paper but have no practical application to the table. Your sorcerers have the same thing. They should have been a wizard subclass at this point. Sorcerers do nothing unique. So give me clearer direction. 4e, I think, did a very good job in some of the classes of like having a clear idea of identity. That's gone. And one of my favorite races in 4e, the Shard Mind. Where is it? Bring it
Where is
back.
it? I love that. That was one of the cool ones too. I also like in 4E that every giant had something very specific to that class. Like, it was so much better. Now when you go into 5E, they're literally the same giant. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I've ranted about these stupid giants 50 times. Like, I have a rock and a stick. I have a rock and a stick. I have a rock, and a stick. Do you have something else? I have a fire rock and a stick. Oh, I have a cold rock? And like, but dude, what about, like, are all your giants the same? Where's the giant smith? And where's the giant spellcaster? And where's the giant doctor? And where's the giant tank? And where's the
Right.
smaller giant that's, like, more nimble? Like, give me other things.
What's so confusing about it is that they have this great lore in 5e about
Yes.
giants, and then they go rock and stick.
Yeah, like we are the master smiths. We're the fire giants. We live in these iron fortresses beneath the sea. Or the mountains, and we in these lava pull these iron chains to build our fortresses. Bind them together. We make the weapons of the gods. I have a sword and a rock. Like, what are you doing? I mean, thankfully, Big B's new adventure book is coming out. I think we'll have new stat blocks, but good dragons suffer the same fate.
Yes.
Dragons are awful in 5e. Giants are awful in 5e.
Yeah.
A bunch of lore that doesn't match the stat block. I'm looking at you, Aboleth. So there's a bunch of like, we're older than the gods. We are a CR10, and we kind of suck. And like, okay, thanks, dude. Amazing.
Yes, Mister says that she hears a cat. Yes, there is a cat here. Her name is Sisu, and relating to my stream, she wants my attention. It's a very cat thing to do, even though she thinks she's a dog. So she's staring at me currently. So we just talked about how WotC does things very oddly. Like they do such strange things, but their recent change, where they've essentially took D&D and blast sanitized it in an attempt to be more inclusive. They've changed rules. They try to become like this different thing, essentially making it less cohesive, in my opinion. But everyone used to accuse 4E of being. Do you agree with the direction they're going in?
I think that it's hard for us to. Do I agree with it? I think it's a fine question, but should they care? Is they have the metrics, right? Like they must be doing data analytics on like who's selling and the feedback they're getting. So presumably they think they're going in the right direction, and the market will bear out whether it's the right idea or not. To me, I don't mind like sort of. I don't want to call it. I don't know what to call it, but like you can leave the orcs as lawful evil. I don't know, but like having the odd orc who's not that's fine. Like I think it's good to have the player options to break away from it. So having new drow that are not just like all worshippers of Lolth is fine. But they still fumble quite a bit. The Hodozi was a disaster when they came out with like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the Spelljammer depiction of like the minstrel Hodozi. That was a disaster. It was awful.
Hey, Christians! L2S Entertainment is rating in. Thank you.
What's up, Christian? Welcome in. What were they doing? They were probably doing some world building.
Yeah, he's doing world building. How was your stream? So, just for everyone who's coming, I am Sam, Classic Sam NYGM. We're talking with GMWorkshop, who has an amazing channel here on Twitch, and we are talking all things D&D. So we were just talking about WotC's new 1D&D or whatever they're going to call it.
So yeah, I mean 5.5 overall, like I've been looking very closely at the UA. Like I review it every time they release. We do a dive of it. Today, for example, we looked at the new 6th edition or this PHB 6 or whatever the 6th update. Some of it looks fantastic. Like I like the monk not being called key points. Like I'm on point with discipline points. That's fine. The new rogue is outstanding. The ranger still sucks. The paladin's great. The cleric's great. The bard is great. Like overall, I think they're making the right strides. My qualm with them is more along the lines of them lying, saying this is all going to be backwards compatible when it's fundamentally going to be a huge discrepancy between stock 5 and then whatever this is. And they're only saying this because they want to keep selling books, right? Obviously, if they said, hey, this is 6th edition, stop buying the older books, they'd lose, money hand over fist.
Right.
But I appreciate what they're doing. Some of their books have the last releases. Heist of the Golden Vault has been a bad release. It's not good, and I don't imagine it's selling well.
Right.
Dragonlance, I think for the Dragonlance nerds probably spoke to, but everybody else didn't care all that much about Kender and the knockoff Hobbits. The upcoming book, Big Bees, I'll be picking up, but then the Fandelver book, I'm not sure I care too much about. So there's a little bit of back and forth on what they're deciding. What they're trying to avoid, I think, is the 3.5 bloat, right? You must remember that, where it was like a billion splat books. But at some point we get there, and then what are you meant to do? So I don't. If I were in their shoes, I'm not sure what else I would do. I think I would hyper focus probably on what sells. So Critical Role sells. The new subclass books always sell well. And then the adventure books, I don't think are doing particularly well. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think the adventure book is doing well at all. Do you think... Oh, for crying out loud. 1 second, everyone. I'm sorry, but this young lady needs to be up here. So
what's up? I'll talk to you, Chad.
What's up, Thurkin?
Okay, there she is. Now she can be there and stop crying. All right. So, do you think that you would do it differently if you were in charge of
In their
WotC?
shoes?
Yeah.
I mean, first, oh boy,
Just
I think I would have offered a digital and hard copy ages ago. I'm not sure what the metrics look like, but producing books is getting more expensive. The supply chain is all over the place.
right.
But I think there's a lot of garbage in the books that they're releasing. Like I find there's a lot of um, I'll look at Spelljammer specifically. It's an old beloved setting that didn't sell well even back in the day. People think
Mm,
that it was all that, but it wasn't. It didn't
right.
sell very well. But there's very little actual content in it. I look at Strixhaven, same thing. Like it
Yeah.
was not a great book.
Yeah.
I
I still
look
think it
at
isn't.
the Keys of the Golden Heist. It's a book about heists with no mechanism in any of the adventures that I saw to build actual tension. So what are we doing? Like,
Right.
it feels like a lot of marketing. You know what it feels like?
Mm.
Did you ever see the interview with Steve Jobs when he talks about the collapse of Xerox?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so it feels like the marketing people are in charge now,
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
they're being told the guys at the creatives at Watts are being told you need to push out a book every 3 months and just push it out, but it's not done. Just push it out,
Right.
and
Right.
they're banking on the Fortnitification of D&D, right? Like
Right.
that's with the D&D VTT and all of
Mm-hmm.
that stuff, they're going to microtransaction the hell out of it. That's where they're going. I don't agree with that take. I don't like it. I don't think it's good for the hobby. I don't think it's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, though, like when my mom called every video game, stop playing Nintendo, mom, I'm playing the Xbox.
Yeah.
Stop playing. It's the same thing with D&D, right?
Yeah.
D&D is
Mm-hmm.
sold at Target, D&D is sold at Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
D&D is everywhere.
Yes.
So they can kind of do whatever they want, and there isn't really a competitor for it. And people say Paizo, not really.
Not
Yeah, and Paizo
really.
has a tiny piece of the market.
Not really.
Chaosium with the Call of Cthulhu, as much as I would like to think, they're not sold at Target. So I don't know if we have an avenue, and I think I would outreach again to the community, kind of what they're doing, and try to make sure that I mend the OGL fiasco
Mm-hmm.
and produce good content. People want good content, so give me good content, and then they'll stick with you. If the content sucks, like it has been, then people will try to look elsewhere.
So, with what they're doing with all these books being pushed out and everything else, do you think that people are gonna, especially with the new one D&D coming out or 6C, do you think people are gonna go more toward homebrew or modules?
With 6C coming out,
Yes.
uh, I don't think homebrew will ever, like, people will do their own thing, but there's something to be said about sitting at a table and knowing what everybody else is playing to make sure
Right.
you have this sort of even ground.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that alone, like, and homebrew is so disparate, right? Like we don't know if you have like the most OP bun build or whatever the hell
Right.
it is, or coffee locks. Like nobody wants to play with that.
Right.
So I think some people will do what happened with 3 and 3.5. Some people will stick with 3. Some people will stick with 5. Is you have all the books. Some people will migrate over to 5.5 or 6, whatever it's going to end up being called.
Right.
And seeing the power level scale difference. Like, are you familiar with the term mudflation?
No.
So this is a term that comes from like MMOs. If you play World of Warcraft, the original
Mm-hmm.
game, and then the Burning Crusade came out, the best, or the new rare items of the new expansion were better than the best items of the old expansion. So people wanted to go get the new stuff because it was better than anything they got before. The same will happen with D&D. The new classes are so much better than the old ones. Like, well, I want to do the cool thing he's doing. So if I'm playing at a table with somebody that's the cool new stuff, I want that. So people, I think, are going to naturally want to migrate over to that new cool shiny stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're going to see happen.
So I know, because I'm always in your channel, that you are pretty much a very popular GM on Twitch. Have you had any public recognition going outside as, oh my god, I've seen you on Twitch?
No, no, no. No, my kids. That's it. But no, not at all. Not at all. I hope it never happens. I wouldn't know what to say to that person. But no, I mean, I'm going to Gen Con, which I'll meet a couple of people who are going there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's planned. I know Rob, I think, is now planning to go to Gen
Yep.
Con.
Yep.
AJ may be going to Gen Con. So I'll meet up with them and say hey. But I don't think anybody anywhere is ever going to go, oh, you're so and so. I saw you on Twitch. Like, the odds of that happening are so catastrophically low,
Hmm.
and that's fine. Like, no, I'm okay with that. I'm quite okay with that.
So, if it did happen, let's say it did happen, you're at Gen Con and someone goes, "Oh my God, GM Workshop," what would you? What would
I
you
would be
be?
like, I'd be like, why do you know who I am? But I'd be like, cool, hey, nice to meet you. Who are you? Awesome. I'm glad you hate or love the show, and I'm happy that that's it. That's about like, I don't know what else I would say. It's like meeting somebody, a friend of a friend, I guess, is probably how I would behave, right? I've talked to you about this guy, like, cool, nice to meet you. How are you? And just probably that's about it. I'm not sure,
Hemathos.
like, what else am I meant to do? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, Hemathos says if we see you, we have to be weird. So,
True.
um, so what's your favorite segment on your channel? Because you produce once or twice a week chat plays D&D.
I, my favorite thing is, oh boy, so for a while there, I was doing Chat Plays D&D 5 days a week, which was a lot of work. Like for every hour of Chat Plays D&D, there's like almost a full hour of prep
Yeah,
ahead of it.
New York, shut up.
It's
So,
all it's all good. It's all good. And so I like Chat Plays D&D. I like the world building streams. I like the Dungeon Spire. I like the actual plays. My favorite right now is probably the Dragonlance stream, just
mm,
because it's fun to tell the story and have, invested players.
right.
But I like the community that we have. So anything that where they're invested, I'm happy.
Hmm.
The bummer streams are when I do a thing and then like nobody cares, and I'm like, all right, well that's a bum.
Yep.
But largely, I think, yeah, Chat Plays D&D is very popular right now. Dragonlance, just because I want to see how the story, sort of
Right.
evolves and whether they make it or not.
I have not been in that stream, and I'm kind of bummed about it because I haven't been able to like. I don't want to come in midstream, mid story, because I feel like I would miss a lot of things. So, how long before you became an affiliate?
An affiliate? I don't like in the first month, I think,
Oh
just
wow.
because it was I was on this other streamer that was used to play Magic the Gathering, and
Hmm.
he was the one like, you should go. And so early on I was doing, and it had nothing to do with anything. I was just playing like Among Us with some friends,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they would turn the stream on while we played as sort of like lurking, and then based off of just that, I was like, oh cool. And then I hit affiliate, and then I was like, I hesitated. Do I want affiliate? Because affiliate you get ads. I don't know.
Right.
I don't think I'm gonna keep doing this thing. And then eventually I was like, okay, why not? And that was it.
So, is the end goal as an affiliate to become partner, or is just one of those things that if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't,
I mean, I'm a very goal-oriented person, whether it be at my work or elsewhere. Like I have one of the big. So first of all, I would say if you're getting into Twitch with the intention of, making it or being rich, stop. You're doing yourself a disservice.
right.
For me, initially it was just literally like I had written down on a piece of paper, can I hit in the first year my goal was, can I hit 1,000 followers and can I get 50 concurrent subs? I was
Hmm.
like, I need some metric. And can I hit like 20 concurrent viewers one time? And then we did it. I was like, oh my God, we did it. The second year was like, can I hit 3,000 followers? Can I hit 100 subs? And
Hmm.
can I get like 30 concurrent viewers? And then we did. It was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So it's like, for the third year, I'll try to aim high. Can I make partner by March of next year? So it's just for me. It's just a goal that I'm working towards. If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, that's fine. But that's kind of where I'm at. It's sort of striving for something, because if I just go on to do, I don't know. I think if I stagnate, then I struggle.
Hmm.
But the only measure of success, really, well, first, people having fun. So whenever people come to the stream and go, "This was really fun," that's a good day for me.
Right.
But otherwise, the only metric that you have is just bigger number go up, right? Like that's
Right.
basically
Right.
it, which is not good. Gamifying it, I think, is very unhealthy, but still. And so if I can hit partner, then I think it gives you a little bit more credence with like the Wizards of the Coast of the world, where they go, okay, maybe we can pay attention to this guy now. And all that is just so I can be like, hey, Spelljammer sucks and this book sucks. Can we fix it? Here's some ideas, please. And maybe that'll lead to like more possible feedback to Wizards of the Coast.
So, you seem like you're a person who likes feedback, who likes to give their opinion on the game, on TTRPGs in general. Um, if the opportunity ever came up where Watsy, Wizard of the Coast, came to you and said, "What are we doing wrong?"
Yeah, hell yeah.
um, would that spiel look like? What would that
I'd
sound
be
like?
like, work on your content. Just work on your content. Streamline that content. Give yourself more time to succeed on the content because what you're putting out is so. Sometimes in the same book, you'll have A+ tier content, and there's just like F tier garbage.
Mm-hmm.
You need to. I know they have limited time, but slow down to speed up.
Right.
Like it's just you're going too fast, and it's detrimental. There's too much. There's too
Right.
much, and not all of it's good. Most of it right now is not good. There's certain, collaborations that they do that they make money hand over fist. I'm sure of it. All the Critical Role stuff probably sells like hotcakes. But I
It
look at
does.
Spelljammer, I look at like even Dragonlance, I don't imagine sold very well. Like I go to my local hobby shop. Again, I don't have the numbers, but I look at it, their shelves are stocked with limited edition Dragonlance books. Nobody bought them.
Right. Right.
So I don't know what their numbers. I'll look at their quarterly reportings, but I would tell them if the content is good, people will buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, they will not. And that bears out to be true because you look at Tasha's, you look at Xanathar's guide, they need to go back to quality content, and I think
Right.
people will follow suit.
So I've always thought that what they're doing is they're mimicking video games, where video games come out unfinished a lot of
Yeah,
the time,
yeah.
and it's a bad business model for video games as well as for WotC. Um, do you think that they can sustain this level of
But this is
pumping
what
out
one, but
material?
this is one D&D is, right? Like
Right.
it's literally, first of all, never buy a 6th edition book. Never buy a physical copy of 6th edition book because it will constantly update it. So they've unlocked the digital version. What I mean by full modification of it is 5e, 5.5, 6e, whatever you want to call it, is going to constantly be updated and eroded, right?
Right.
And so that's it. They're going to release a mediocre version. They're going to update with the patch notes, which is going to be some errata, and they're going to rinse repeat. And so with that in mind, they're going to release garbage,
Yeah.
and then later come in and fix it. That's baked in. That's the plan.
Right.
And so it's a bad. I don't think it's a good plan, but that allows them to maintain their schedule and then just be like, we'll fix it later, and then quote unquote fix it later. But we'll see if people get tired of it, if they get savvy to it, or if they'll just buy it wholeheartedly. Who knows?
So you're a polyglot. You speak a lot of different languages. What other languages speak other than English? I would say.
English, French, Spanish, Arabic, and I've been trying to learn Swedish on stream, which is embarrassing. It's very hard, but it's fun. It's a very different, like to English to Dutch is pretty similar, and then
Mm-hmm.
Dutch to Swedish sounds similar, but English to Swedish is like, I don't know, man. So I'm learning just because
Hey,
it's
bud.
fun to learn something new. But yeah, I could say useful things like the women are reading the newspaper, or the boy drinks juice. Like Duolingo teaches you the most useless crap, but it's still fun to get in front of it and try it.
Ooh, I don't think Duolingo is the right way to go, but they just kind of throw like useless stuff at you, but it's fun. Um, what are your regrets or mistakes that you've made as a DM?
Oh my God, there's so many. Um, I think first and foremost, not trusting myself. Oftentimes it's sort of like, okay, but I know now like what I tolerate and what I don't tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's easier to just sort of like, okay, I'll take it on the chin just to make peace. Sometimes peace is not an option, and kicking somebody else out early saves everybody like the hassle. Having the conversation. Um, the same is true in marriage as it is at a table. Communication, just
Right.
communication. Like if you're not able to communicate, having the tough conversations, then you're stuck.
Right.
And
Right.
so I'm not confrontational, but I'm not confrontational. Like if
Right.
there's a problem, I'll pull you aside, be like, hey, listen, this thing you said, it's not appropriate, or I don't welcome it at my table. I know you didn't mean it maybe this way, but it certainly was not something that I want, or if you want to keep going that way, that's fine.
Right.
Absolutely, you're right, but not at my table. So I invite you to find yourself another table. And I've had this conversation, and it's fine. Like I'm not mean about it. I'm not rude
Mm-hmm.
about it. So I think pulling the trigger earlier, and sometimes just checking myself, be like, I think I'm telling the story that people want, and then come to find out like 4 or 5 sessions is nobody, like 3 people are not having fun.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, I regularly check in with my players like every few sessions. Is everybody having a good time? What do you want more of? What do you want less of? Um, it, I'll give you maybe an insight into how I think. When I started doing improv many years ago, the teacher was like, or the improv teacher was like, "Hey, why are you guys doing improv?" And that's for me was because I wanted to learn to fail comfortably.
Right.
And I promise you in improv, Jesus, the stories I could tell you. You're on stage, you're doing a thing, and it's dead quiet, and you can hear the person putting the pin number because all the stuff that you're doing is not landing. That's
Right.
brutal.
Right.
So failing is a very important key, and I think you need to be comfortable with failure. And I would tell myself, be patient and be okay at failing at stuff, and just learn from it.
Yeah, I agree with that one 100%. That's one way to to get over yourself, I think. Um, what is the balance that you do between? Do you have a balance between prep knowledge and just winging it? Have you ever winged a game, or do you fully come in prepped 100% every time?
No, I wing a lot of stuff. For Dragonlance, I have the details. There's a lot of moving parts, and because it's a broadcasted show, I try to do my best to keep it cohesive and not
Mm-hmm.
go off the cuff too much. I still do it, because players are always like, "I want to turn this boulder into balsa wood and turn it back into rock. What happens?" Like, okay, all right, relax. First of all, MacGyver. Um, but at home. I don't prepare plot points. I just
Mm-hmm.
prepare situations and let the players figure it out.
Okay.
I used to be, I would over prepare, but now I'm just like, here's a cool puzzle. I don't have the solution. Let them figure it out. Like,
Right.
there's a door there's this. So at home, it's probably now 30-70 with some scene or something I have in mind, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll just like let the game flow.
Okay.
I might have 1 or 2 things because players. You can prepare till you're blue in the face, but man, no plan survives encounter with the players, right? Like
Right. Right.
there's a little goblin there. That's it. There's the most insignificant NPC, and they're gonna just follow the goblin until the cows come home. And like, all right, I guess I prepared all this other crap for nothing. So now I just kind of, all right, here's the world. Here's what's happening. What do you guys want to do? Cool. Oh, wow, we're actually doing the quest. Perfect. Or no, we're going on a tangent. So
Okay.
over preparing is detrimental. Under preparing equally so, but over preparing can be like frustratingly so.
Well, speaking of tangents, how do you mitigate that? Like, how do you get your players when they've gone off to far left field and you're like, I have no idea what they're doing or why they're doing it? How do you, if you have to, pull them back?
You pull them back. That's not you. That dungeon that was going to be in this swamp suddenly is like right there, or they meet an NPC that's like running away from something, or like there are certain buttons that you learn that players have, especially your players, that you should
Mm-hmm.
probably know pretty well. Is it loot? Is it an interesting NPC? Is it a vision from a god? Is it something that happens to them? Is it so one of the greatest tricks that I learned from the best at it, which is my
Mm-hmm.
spouse, is if you make them think it's their idea, they're going to 100% go for it.
Right.
So you insinuate, you give a little hint that you think like, like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. And be like, wait, what did you say? What's this? What? And anytime the players think they can get one up on you, then
Yeah.
they're going to 100% go for it. So
100%.
there's 1,000 little things you do. There's loot in this cave. Don't go there. Or, just an encounter, a message from somebody at home and for the
Mm-hmm.
character. But it depends the kind of game you're playing, right? If
Right.
they're playing Diablo 3 Kick Down Doors, fine, there's a dungeon with cool loot, they're going to go for it. If you're playing a super roleplay heavy intrigue game, then you should know what lever to pull on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think at this point I have a good handle on what buttons to push to bring them back.
Right. 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 So, what inspires you? How do you create these worlds? Like, especially like the ones that you do with chat. How do they come about?
I mean, you can give me so a game in improv. Give me a location, a job, or
What?
a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, that was really weird.
Right. So yeah, good. So give me a job, a location, or a relationship.
Right.
Give me any one of those.
Hmm. How about chat? You give them a job, a location, or a relationship. Somebody give me something. That'd be great because I can't think of anything right now because my brain is on pause. So,
You're
sushi,
fine.
sushi
So
chef.
if somebody wants to type something, but like sushi chef, perfect. You get a sushi chef. And then you start thinking logically, all right, that sushi chef needs to source his fish somewhere. Maybe the sushi chef is no longer able to get his fish and now he's going out of business. Why isn't he getting his fish? What's happening in the beach or the fishermen? Maybe there's been a there's no more fish. Where did the fish go? Ah, a new enormous creature is siphoning all the fish and eating it. Why is it here? Because it got kicked out of its homeland. What was its homeland? Deep in the ocean. Cool. So we're now in an underwater adventure. Some Sahuagin have kicked out this enormous shark. Cool. So we just created in like the span of 8 seconds based on Sushi Chef. Cool adventure. They need to make their way to the bottom of the ocean, find these Sahuagin, kick them out of this land so that the shark can go back. How do we get there? Let's create some NPCs. Let's present this situation in the village. And in the span of what, 20 seconds, we've created like probably 3 sessions. I
Right.
know I need a beach town. I know I need like a first layer underwater and then some deep water underground
Right.
coral palace, and there you go. You've got your 3 settings, three meeting points, and off you go.
And off you go. So, you, if you had to give someone advice about doing this,
Mm,
DMing, like,
mm.
what important personality trait or strength do you think they would need to be successful?
DMing online or DMing at home?
Either one.
Okay, DMing at home, just do it. Just
Right.
trust yourself and do it. It's not as hard as you think it is. You're gonna get things wrong, and that's half the fun. I still make mistakes all the time. Trust yourself. Pick up a book. Try. The time that you suck the most at is when you first try, and then you only get better from there.
Right.
So if you never start, then you'll be like, well, I never have to suck, but you're never gonna get better at it either. So just go for it, and don't over prepare. Have an idea in your mind. Make sure that you're somewhat familiar with the very basic blocks of the rules, like you roll d20.
Right.
But overall, just try and steal.
So
All the
you're
great.
encouraging theft.
Absolutely. Look at like any movie that you like and be like, this is a cool. I want that scene, or a book that you've read. Take, adapt, change, yoink and twist. Just make it your own,
Mm.
and go for it. Like you're not putting this out in the world to consume and just you like the plot of a Discworld book, do it. You like the latest Robert Sanderson, whatever Jordan Sanderson, what is his name?
I think it's
Um,
Jordan Sanderson.
it's Jordan Sanderson book. Go for it. You like the Wheel of Time stuff? You pull it away. You like the Lord of the Rings? You like some sci-fi? Just take all the elements that you like, put it in your cauldron, cook something up, and off you go. And it's fine. Like
It's fine.
literally everybody does it. You're okay.
So, what is one of your biggest influences that most people have never heard of
In terms of like D&D or in life?
in life?
Oh man. I mean, the tried answer are my parents, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, Wonderful human beings, I think, to a fault. In terms of like popular or known individuals, um, I think for me, transformative, probably Tolkien, just because
Mm.
that's what made me fall in love with reading. I can't remember how old I was, 9 maybe. So in Europe, the way that it works is they give you a book to read over the summer.
Right.
And we had summer vacation and we were ascribed The Hobbit. And I
Mm.
would open the book and be like, there lived the dirty hole, the 13 dwarves globbing and blobbing and flobbing, and like, I would just pass out. It was like, I couldn't get through the first chapter, right? It was awful. All these names, and I'm like, I
Right.
don't read this. And then I went back to school not having read the book, and they start talking about the book in class, and they go, so what did you guys think about the goblin in the cave? I'm like, wait, what?
What
There's
goblin?
goblins? What's a goblin? Why is it in a cave? What's going on in here? And then there was like the trolls that turned to stone. There are trolls in this book? Are you kidding? There's a dragon? What is this? So I went home that day, like I was like, I gotta read this. So I pushed myself to get through chapter 1, and I was like,
Yes.
oh my god, they
Yeah.
can write about this? You're allowed to write about this?
Hmm. Hmm.
There are elves and stuff. And so that's it. Like I think at that point I just grabbed that book. I fell in love with the world of Middle Earth, and then I read everything I could get my hands on. But
Oh
that was
wow.
really like, the David Eddings book and the Shannara stuff, good, bad, mediocre fantasy, and it was just everything I could get my hands on. I was just consuming. And so I would say that like early on, in terms of authors that to this day I still think are incredible. If I want to go with authors, I think Terry Pratchett.
Mm,
So he's the
yes.
Discworld author. When he passed, I'll tell you, I never met the man. I know nothing. I know very little about, but it still felt like a close friend had gone,
Right.
because of how much his book spoke to me. So I think like, as an adult man, to this day, I'm still bummed out about it. But Pratchett is probably like a huge influence on
Right.
on that for sure.
So, other than D&D, what
Hmm.
other I know other than TTRPGs, what other things do you enjoy playing?
I love, like other, so away from the RPG scene.
Yes.
I love board games.
Oh, okay.
I have a friend who's huge into board games, but we play board games often. We just, it varies from like American games to like Euro games.
Mm.
Games like Solkin or Last Will are a lot of fun. Like just, it varies. Some dexterity based games with the kids as well. Some quizzes and puzzles are a good
Okay.
time. Other hobbies, we like to go out for walks. We video games right now. I'm on like this Elden Ring kick.
I saw
This game
that. Yeah.
is kicking my ass. But I killed the giant and I killed some bad guys. I'm near the end of the game. I think I'm almost done, and then I never have to play it again. Um, but yeah, I like anything that sort of like challenges me.
Right.
I don't tilt very easy, but chat likes to put me to the test. But like by and large, things that I do, it's just a lot of hanging out with the kids and reading, and I really like playing and being with my family. So we do a lot of that.
I've done more awes in this interview than I've had done in any of the interviews so far. I've said awe so many times from you just going, my kids like, oh.
But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Have you interviewed anybody else that had children?
Yes, I've interviewed 3 people who have children, and you're the only one that has elicited an actual like continuous.
Listen, they are, yeah, they're awesome kids. They're great, and it's fun to play with them. They're starting, we played D&D with them a few times, and other TTRPGs, and they enjoy it. They're just as nerdy as dad and mom, and it's a great time. They're great kids, and
It's
they're fun to be
awesome.
around.
So D&D's obviously your bread and butter, but what other TTRPGs do you play?
Right now, I mean, I've run Call of Cthulhu and Pulp recently, but otherwise, it's hard to get anybody near me to buy into another game. I'd like to play the updated version of Vampire. I think it'd be maybe interesting. I don't know what it's at
Yes,
now, like edition 55 or something.
working
I
on
want to
getting the
play
creator.
I want to play Deadlands so bad.
I
Uh,
heard.
and I just, anyway, the Weird West still speaks to me, and I would like to get back to it and play that.
I
Um,
think I played it once before. I believe I was still in college, and I enjoyed it to an extent, but
yeah.
I don't remember much about it. It'd be
Yeah,
interesting to
the
play it again.
setting for me was like it's after the Civil War. It's
Yes,
out west. There's like all this magic that's happening. The setting is really cool. I don't know if they cleaned it up a little bit in terms of like problematic imagery.
they have it
Um,
with the revised version. It's cleaned up quite a bit.
nice. I'll need to go back and jump into it, but like I just have this nostalgic like thing. This is the thing I want to do. I want to play Deadlands. I don't know how good or bad it is, but I have this sort of like ache for it. Other TTRPGs I'd like to try. Dread was fun, and Paranoia is fun. I don't know. There's the new Candela Obscura, which seems okay. I'm
Hmm.
sorry to say it doesn't like look amazing. Excuse me. And I'm keen to see that new Critical Role D20 system they're releasing or demoing at Gen Con, which is the
Really?
major reason I'm going. So I want to try it. Illuminated Worlds, I think it's called.
Yes, limited words. Like this, I don't find myself really interested. I'm not a big Critical Roles fan to begin with, so I'm not
Yeah.
totally interested in it. And if I do end up going to Gen Con, it's still up in the air. Um, we'll see how
Yeah.
how I decide how
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
going to work out. Um,
But I
so
think like despite whether, and I hear you, like I haven't watched Critical Role since campaign one, but whether I like it or not, they're big movers and shakers in
yes,
the
yes,
sphere. So I'm like, all right, they're gonna put something out. Is this the thing that'll help like sort of get D&D to like, or
right.
is it just gonna be a flash, a pan like terrible thing product that like, the critters will buy, nobody else will play. And so I'm keen to go, and like I think it's gonna be important to be not first to market, but first some of the first people to try and be like, all
Right.
right, is this good? Is this bad? Do they solicit feedback? Do they care? And I really want to get my hands on it. I have like 3 sessions booked at Gen Con. Like I'm gonna be spending 8 or 10 hours on this thing
Oh wow.
just to really get to the meat and potatoes of it. I really want to know if it's good.
I'm interested to hear your feedback on that once that happens.
Yeah.
So there's this pervasive personality that happens either in people's chats or it happens in YouTube comment sections, but the actually personality, you know.
I love them actually.
Really?
I love them actually because that person is super invested, right? Like I
Hmm.
know sometimes it's detrimental and nobody asks their feedback, but I'm always like, "Hey, thanks for the feedback," and then that's it. That's the only thing you need to say is, "Hey,
Right.
thanks," and then you've disarmed them. All right, cool, thank you for it's non. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I just say, "Hey, thanks," and then they get to move on with their lives. I move on with mine, and usually that's good enough. If it gets to be negative, then that's one thing, but typically it's
Right.
like, actually this. I'm like, hey, thanks. And then what do you say to that? You're welcome. That's it. You move on with your life.
That's it.
That's
It's
it.
over. Like you didn't get the response you wanted.
Yeah. And I just, even in real life, when people go, well, technically, I'm like, hey,
Oh,
thanks. That's great. And then that's it. I just, cool. Thank you. And then you just move on. Like, I don't have to apply anything you've said. I'm not saying you're wrong or right. I'm just saying thank you. And people have a hard time navigating, oh, okay. And then I do the same at work. Somebody's like, hey, technically this. I'm like, hey, thanks. You're welcome. Cool. And then the conversation ends. And then you just go on.
well, what about when it's an actual something that is obviously they're wrong,
Mhm.
and it's something that they need to be corrected on. That could be,
Give
you
me an
know.
example, because like if
Okay,
somebody's
I'll do it from the medicine point of view because I'm a medic. I'm a paramedic for New York City
okay,
Fire Department, and I get a lot of the times where someone is having an allergic reaction, and
mm,
I'll say Benadryl's not always the first go-to drug that you should be using. One,
mm,
it can cause dementia. Two, it will completely dry you out. And I usually get, well, actually, Benadryl is one of the first drugs you should be using. That's not usually the case. And overusing Benadryl can be a detriment to you. It can cause
mm,
serious heart conditions. So
yeah,
how do you correct that so that they're not in a weird danger zone?
that's a fantastic question. I would say there's a difference between medical advice. I'm not a doctor, but there's
Mm,
medical advice that is like literally life threatening and
right.
life, and for sure it'd be like, no, you're an idiot. Also go get, yeah, in this case, like I think you come down like, here's the citation, here are the sources. This is
Hmm.
what you shouldn't do if you need to educate people. But also, like, it's exhausting in the same way that people,
Yes.
like, I don't need to correct people about I'm not your educator about, like, whether it be my background, my culture, like, I'm
Right.
not here to educate you, like, I don't have the energy for it, right?
Right.
So, if somebody in Twitch chat, in a YouTube comment, actually, and they're wrong, it will do nothing for me to engage with that person.
Right.
I will not change their mind, right?
Hmm.
I'm not gonna gain a sudden fan because, "Oh, you've shown me the light of the error of my ways." So just, "Hey, thanks," and that's it. Like, if it's dangerous advice,
Right.
like, I'm struggling to think in the context of TTRPGs, but if somebody says something racially
Yeah.
heinous or
Right.
something that's like, gay people don't belong in TTRPGs, for
Right.
example. That's not my opinion, so don't clip it out of
Please
context,
don't.
chat.
Yes.
But let's say that that's the comment they leave. Then I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm not even gonna say I'm sorry. Your comment is not welcome. Everybody belongs at the table. You
Right.
may choose to run the table the way that you want to, but I find your opinion repulsive and no, thank you.
Right.
So I think you correct that person just because it's so abhorrent. I need to be careful with words, and we have a certain duty in the public discourse to, I think, like, confront problems like this. But if it's just some trite nonsense, like, okay, thanks, and then that's the best way. You never have to think about them. They feel like they got their word in, and everybody can just happily move on.
Move on. Right. So, ru- rules as written or rules as intended.
Uh, hmm. It depends. If the player is trying to
Really.
abuse this, if the player is trying to abuse something, and they're like, well, technically, and like, listen, that's fine, but in this case, I'm going to rule this way because otherwise you break the game.
Right. Right.
I want to make sure it's, you know what, players first.
Okay.
Right? That's it. Like, whatever supports the narrative, whatever supports the moment that allows the players to do the thing they generally want to do.
Hmm.
So it's whether I need to interpret the rules as as intended, rules as written. I will default to the rule of making my players have a good time is what I'll go with. So whatever fits that moment. By and large, though, just at the beginning of a session, if unknown quantities, it's rules as written to make sure we have an understanding of baseline.
Right.
But then I'm happy to like support the gameplay that they're after, as long as it's not detrimental or you know, like fundamentally breaking something.
Right. Right. So, if you could DM anyone, dead or
Yeah,
alive, real or fiction, who would it be?
that's a great question. I've asked that question before. Um, a lot of times people answer Robin Williams. Uh,
Yeah, I've
to
had that a bunch of times.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. I would not be interested in DMing or playing with Gygax. I would
Hmm.
not. Who would I want to DM for or be DM'd by? Is that the question?
Yeah, so who would you want to DM? Like, who would you
DM
want to have
for.
yeah, DM for?
Man. Uh, Dead or alive? Sherlock Holmes. I know it's a fictional character. He doesn't exist, but I think it'd be fantastic to have somebody who can really like deep dive into what you're offering. That'd be an interesting experience for sure. I think somebody crazy, imagine like any number of authors would be great. You
Right.
know, again, Terry Pratchett would be fantastic at it. Um, let's say dead. Let's go like someone like Alexander the Great or
Oh
Caesar. I'd
wow.
love to know how they would approach a game like this, how
Hmm.
their mind would operate. You know, someone like George Washington could be interesting as well.
Right. Hmm.
Um, Somebody who's alive. Oof. Anybody who wants to sit at my table. But also, oh, that's tricky.
Yeah. I love that question because people kind of go, "I've never thought about it." Hmm.
I mean, somebody like Brandon Lee Mulligan would be really fun to have at the table, but it might be too much
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
keep up with. That might be really tricky. Who's an author or an actor that I like that I think would be really fun? I mean, there's a streamer that I really would like to get at my table, Ko. I think he'd be great at it and be
Hmm.
really fun to have him play. But in terms of celebrity or known person, Stephen King, dude, I would
Really?
wonder. I mean, I'm not a big fan of his books, but like someone like Stephen King, how would they approach the game? How would they? He probably plays somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually plays
Of
D&D
course,
somewhere.
I guarantee he
Um,
probably does.
and Conan O'Brien. Dude, I think
Conan
Conan O'Brien,
O'Brien, really?
yeah, would be awesome. And then AOC. I would love to have AOC at the
Hmm.
table and see like what kind of snapback she'd come back with. There you go.
Wow, that'd be actually. I would love to see AOC and Conan O'Brien on the same table because
Yeah, that'd be
he's so
wild. Like,
unserious.
what would you get, dude?
That'd be amazing. Um, I have to stop saying and my chat knows I drive myself crazy when I do it. It is my belief that people that stream with specific content like D&D or art streams or whatever, they are multi-talented. They just probably don't realize it. You're a producer, you're a director, you're essentially acting. Where do you see yourselves in these roles, and do you plan on expanding on them?
Nope.
Nope.
Just nope. I don't see anywhere myself in these roles, and I don't plan on. I mean, I my here's the deal. The day that I turn on my stream and I'm doing a chat plays D&D and nobody shows up, then that's a great day because everybody has a table and nobody needs my services anymore,
Right.
right? So then I can turn off my stream and be like, I'm done. I've
Right.
done the thing that I want to. Everybody's found a table. Hurrah, hooray. In terms of expanding, I mean, you know, the way that Twitch is eating itself right now, who knows? But
Yeah.
I don't really if I put a lot of effort and time that would take time away from my family, I could expand it. I could do these shorts and TikToks and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to broaden and get like 100 viewers in to play D&D with me. And oh my gosh, that would be fun. But you know, I have a great life, man. Like
Right. Right.
I love where I'm at, and I don't really see myself break. I'm not looking to be Sam Jackson and starting acting in my 40s or whatever. Like that's not where I see myself. So yeah, I'm a very content
Very
person, I guess.
content person. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm going to open this up to chat now. There's a few questions that's sitting in queue that I'm
Sure.
going to ask. So hang on a second. Killer Koala asks, "Do you DM for hire at all?"
I do not. No. I used to volunteer at a school and a cafe to go and I did it for free.
Hmm.
And that's the closest I ever got. But no, I do not DM for pay.
And it was I just want to make sure, guys, these questions are for him. If you want to have questions for me, that's fine. I just need to know if it's for me or for Rock. This we need to know. We already asked this question before, but you got any favorite minis? And we saw that beautiful green jag, and I thought it was amazing. Um, Killer again asks, why the potatoes for emotes?
Why not? It was just like there was this filter that I could put on, and it was a potato face, and it just felt like appropriate to be. Whenever we flubbed a roll, we just turned into a potato, and it just kind of stuck. That's
um,
it.
do you even okay? So this is a mythical, and it's a kind of a long one. Do
That's
you
fine.
even GM or play in French, or are you keeping it mostly in English? I found out I was finding playing and DM in French somewhat awkward because I mostly know the spells in English.
I mean, when I played D&D in the 90s, it was all in French because I was in
Mm,
France at the
right.
time, right? So Donjons et Dragons, it was fine. Like I don't have a problem with it. Most of my players here, where I'm at in Canada, are mostly Anglophones,
Mm-hmm.
but I have now on Saturdays a French player at my table. So I'll describe the scene in English, and if he needs clarification, I'll switch it to French and then just explain it again. I could DM in French; it wouldn't be a problem. I don't know that I know all the spells in French because all my books are in English, but I would have. No, it wouldn't take very long to just look up in the book in French
Right.
and just go from there. So it's a non-issue. I wouldn't mind doing it in French at all. Yeah.
So, what's your first language? English, first language, English, or French? What's your first language?
So my first language is Arabic,
Mm-hmm.
and then French, and then English.
Okay, okay. So it's easy for you to translate on the fly.
Y- yeah. I think
Okay.
like I don't. Once you get to a certain level of like comfort in a language, you don't
Mm-hmm.
translate. You don't. I don't need to translate from English to French or French to English. It's just I think in that language when I'm speaking in that language, and therefore it's easy enough to just go right.
Right.
Like you don't think, from like whatever to English. It's just English, and so the same is true when you're bilingual or whatever. Then it's just comes out in that language. Like we could switch to French now, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I don't think you speak French,
No.
but we could and it's fine. Like I do it at work all the time. I work in Canada. It's a bilingual country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to switch between French and English incessantly.
Oh wow.
Whenever I
Okay.
go to places like hello, bonjour, and so like whichever way they answer, if they say bonjour, cool, we're speaking in French. If they say hello, then we're doing it in English. Like it's fine.
So, I, I've been trying for years, and I'm still doing it. Trying to learn languages. I think my main problem is that I try to learn too many at once.
Hmm.
Um, what advice would you give someone who wants to learn?
Immerse yourself in it. Like you gotta get to the point where like the big breakthrough for me. I was living in Europe and I was I French, English, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
But Spanish, we were learning Spanish at school, and so for me, Spanish was very much like a school classroom language. Like,
Yes. Yes.
hola, ¿cómo te llamas? Me llamo blah blah blah. La fecha de hoy is blah blah blah. Like, it'd be like it was so stupid and by rote, and and nothing stuck. And then one year, we had a school trip to Spain. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
was $200, which at the time was a lot of money, but we
Yep.
scraped by, and we traveled to Spain and I was like, "Oh, holy crap! This isn't just some classroom language. These people actually speak this language. This isn't like, to them, when they're in school, they go they do it in French. For them,
Mm-hmm.
French is like this, but Spanish is their day to day. Like I know it's such an obvious thing. And then I was fascinated. I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with the food and the
Mm-hmm.
culture, the women. Um, and then when I came back, I was like, "Oh my God, dude, I gotta get into this like really seriously."
Right.
And so I listened to Spanish music. I would hang out with like the few Spanish people that I knew to really get myself into that. And then when I moved to the U.S., eventually, at first, I had like a Spanish roommate, a Mexican roommate, and like I was trying to force myself to speak Spanish with them all the time, just to start thinking in that language, and it really helped.
Oh, cool. I mean, look, I'm still gonna have probably issues because I always try to do too many things at once,
For
including
sure.
learning a language. So apparently, learning
But
is.
you're in New York, right? Like I mean, when I lived in New York for a period of time,
Mm-hmm.
like there's Spanish is everywhere.
Oh, it's everywhere.
Mostly my experience was Puerto Rican, but like it was there's every language out there. But
Well,
like
what's funny about New York is that every person who is of Hispanic descent if you live in New York, you're automatically Puerto Rican. It's very weird.
Yeah,
Like people are like, "Are you from Puerto Rico?" No, I'm Dominican.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's very
Now
weird
you're
thing.
Puerto Rican. All right, fine, I guess.
Fine, I
Yeah,
guess I'm Puerto Rican.
if I say I'm Puerto Rican,
You
whatever.
know, it's funny
Yeah.
because I apparently when I was smaller, I did speak Spanish because
Hmm.
my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, is from Venezuela, but she went back to Venezuela, so stopped speaking Spanish.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and you lose it. You definitely
yeah,
lose it, right?
absolutely
Yeah.
lose it immediately. So tell everyone we're coming to the end now, and unless people in chat have any more questions, tell everyone what we can expect from you in the future, rather from GM Workshop or from Rocket.
Well, we're launching a new play series on Wednesday nights. I think we're going to be starting July the 19th, Wednesday. I have a bunch of cool players. I'm excited about this sort of homebrew world. It's going to be a short run,
Mm-hmm.
4 to 5 episodes, but it's going to be exciting. I'd like to do more plays with players,
Mm-hmm.
like it's fun to play with chat. I love it and I will keep doing it. But also having actual bodies that respond immediately is always nice.
Yes, yes.
Um, and then I'm gonna be adding just once a week some variety just to give myself a little bit mental break, like to play something else with chat backseating. I love it. All in
Mm-hmm.
all, like legitimately, Sam, like for me, anything that's community oriented, whether it's D&D or like, mini games, anything where people can come and let go of their day's burden is kind of what I'm aiming for, and I'd
Right,
like to keep expanding that. So that's it. The vibe will maintain the same.
right.
The content may vary, but the intention is always with chat first in mind.
First and foremost. Hemathola, please excuse me for if I pronounce that wrong. A little outside of D&D, but what's your favorite board game? Be it to bring new people into designer board games or as a replay for fun. This is directed to either or both of you. I'm gonna let you answer that first.
But look, man, I've had the Hemathal. So there's a number of games. Last Will is such a cool design concept. This is a board game where you start with a bunch of money and you're trying to lose all the money.
Hmm.
You know the movie Brewster's Millions, right?
Yes, I love Bruce's Millions. It's hilarious.
It's basically this, but in a board game where you have a bunch of money and you're trying to lose as much money, and the person who
Right,
ends up the most broke wins the will, essentially.
right, right.
And so I love that game. It's such a twist, like the concept on its head. It's well done. It's well made. But the game that I always will go back to if my friend invites me is called Solkin.
Mm-hmm.
It's the board game is beautiful, and it's this idea of like Incan, like it's all Inca themed. I think it's Inca or Aztec. Man, I got it wrong. Who knows? One or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got like all these moving parts. It's a worker sort of placement game. It's complicated enough to be really inviting and to not be able to just crunch the game to get the math to the best solution. And it's simple enough to be sort of welcoming to new players. And I love that game. So Soulkin would be my answer right now. I can't get enough of it.
Oh, awesome,
What about
awesome.
you?
So I don't play board games like I used to,
Hmm.
but and I know a lot of people are gonna find this really odd because people can't stand this game. I love playing Monopoly.
Hell yeah, man! You go.
I
Yeah, why
adore
not?
Monopoly. I love figuring out a way to break the game. Like I want to figure out a way. I've always tried to figure out a way to like how do we gentrify this area? Like,
Nice.
like we need to gentrify Boardwalk, like or like I don't know Illinois Avenue, whatever.
Yeah,
Like we figure out ways to do stuff like that and make it fun instead of like this way it normally is and turns into a huge fight.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's a lot of fun. I
But it's a
enjoy
pretty, and
playing.
if you use the official rules, it's actually a pretty quick
Yeah.
game. It doesn't have to be like a 15-hour long adventure.
Right, exactly. And then we usually actually we stick pretty close to the original rules. We just like try and figure out ways like, well, we can't build a hotel there because this is a residential area and hotels don't belong in a residential area. Like stuff like that. It's great.
Nice.
It
Yeah,
makes it so
role
much
play in
more
the middle
fun.
of Monopoly. Hell yeah, let's go.
It's so much fun. Uh, let's see. I think there was another question that popped up. Oh, that's for me. Where do you play? So, I don't play for myself. I play for hire. And let's see if this actually works because Stream Elements hates me.
Hmm.
But I have a website where you can hire me. Oh, it actually worked this time. You can hire me
Nice.
for to DM a game for you, whether it's a corporate game, which is a very different game. So if you are a corporation and you want me to do a game for you, that's a different game from the usual D&D, or it's just a one shot or a campaign. Check out the website. That's where I play. Other than that, I haven't been invited to any games lately, and most of my friends want me to DM, so I don't play. I don't get to play. Um, But I think that no one else has any questions. Thank you
Nice.
so much for hanging out with me.
Thank you for
So,
having me.
what we usually do is like I allow my guest to direct the raid. So let's take a look and see who's on right now.
Who do you have? I have a couple people, but I don't know if you know them, so I want to keep the vibe going. It's up to you. You tell me if you have anybody from Rob's community or elsewhere that's live. I don't see anyone.
We have, I think we have similar tastes. So I see Grimbeard Adventure. He's on
Yeah.
Tailspire. GMDL Class is doing Dungeons and Dragons. Darling Creepshow is on. She's going to be on my channel on the 22nd. She's
Let's
going
go
to be a
read
guest.
Darling. I love Darling. She's great.
Awesome. Darling Creepshow it is. So thank you everyone for hanging out. Thank you very much for talking with me. That was so much fun. I really enjoyed it, and I hope Chad
Great.
enjoyed it too. And I can figure out how to spell Creepshow. I have to rearrange this.
Darling's a good bean.
She's very
I've played
cool.
I've played with her a few times. She's really fun.
So thank you guys to hang out for the raid. It's good for me. It's good for the person who's raiding. Check her out. She's very, very fun. She's gonna be with us on the 22nd when I get back from nationals. Thank you, Rocky, for coming on the channel. We really appreciate it.
Thanks
Bye,
very much for having me.
everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Let's see if the raid. Yeah, the raid went. All right. Let's